Okay, well, hey everyone, welcome to this month's Vibrant Life Community class. Oh, and I see both of you there. Hello, you guys. And, we're going to be talking today about a topic that is really, really important. And if you guys are not new to functional medicine, or if you have been patients already, you know the importance of the gut and why this is absolutely critical to optimizing our health. And this main system is where 80% of inflammation is created. We know inflammation is the main, piece that is a contributor to almost all chronic disease. So if we can address this root system of the body, we can really optimize health a lot easier. A lot of times when we are focusing on a lot of the other symptoms happening in the body, but we don't look at these root systems themselves, we can continue to take all the supplements and be on strict diets and be working out constantly and eating perfectly. That's how a lot of my patients are when they come to me. They're doing pretty well sometimes, but they aren't looking at some of the root systems that are actually creating the inflammation in the first place. So they're trying to manipulate things through lots of great lifestyle and diet techniques and supplements, and that's great. We'll just have you guys excuse me. I am coming down with the flu, and unfortunately, or fortunately, this is on Zoom, so it doesn't really matter as much. So hopefully you guys don't leave because of that, but I may, my voice is not as strong right now, okay? But anyways, we're going to be focusing on digestion. And so I'm also going to be going through the 5 pillars of digestion to just make sure we're optimizing these things. We're going to go to common symptoms that are happening that various people come to me to resolve, and how to use nutraceuticals and diet and lifestyle to address these things. But also we will at the end talk about just food sensitivities, what they are, why they're so common right now, and how to really address these things symptomatically right away to get some relief, but also more at the root to prevent these things from continuing to fester and worsen, to have more and more food sensitivities. And so, let's begin here. Okay, and so healthy gut, healthy body, healthy life. The gut is connected in one of the main root sources of the body, but also is where 80% of neurotransmitters are created. So, it's for mood and for health in general. We got to have a healthy gut. So this is where we're going to start. And so a lot of times people are coming to me because of a variety of different symptoms, whether it's fatigue or hormonal imbalances or their cardiovascular risk. And we can, again, address these things very specifically, but the allopathic system really only recognizes that these systems are completely disconnected, that there isn't a relationship between these things. So there'll be a specific recommendation of a medicine, a pharmaceutical a lot of times, but even sometimes a supplement or a herb, just to focus on that one symptom. So just because it's natural doesn't mean that it's addressing the root of what's going on. And so when we go into this here, we recognize in functional medicine, of course, that all these systems are interconnected. So when one system falls out of place, the other systems are going to be affected. But also when you've balanced one system, all the other systems are benefiting as well. So it works both ways for our, to be harmful, but also to be beneficial. So this is the gastrointestinal system, and this is the key component here that connects them all. And this is why we're starting here. And so really 60% of Americans are having digestive dysfunction on the weekly basis now. This is a pretty astounding statistic, and it's only getting worse more and more. Not even decades are going by, but this statistic continues to go up every couple years even. And this is due to a lot of factors, which we will discuss today, about some of the factors that are in our environment, that are in our diets, that are in our world, that are constantly damaging our gut and causing imbalances through the rest of the systems. And so we're going to go through the 4 pillars and even talk about a 5th pillar today as well. And this is going to be just digestion in general, microbial balance, gut integrity, and elimination. So the microbiome is a really hot topic, obviously, right now, especially in the last 5 years, even decade or so. There's been a lot of research that's come out, and we recognize that these guys that are living inside our gut, that are living on center skin, do a lot of things, and we are not able to be optimally healthy without them. Just quite frankly, we live in synergism with these microorganisms here. And so we have 10 times the amount of these microbes than we have human cells in the body. So this is pretty amazing. That's quite an extreme amount. And also 99% of all the DNA in the human body is of microbial origin. So that's kind of crazy to think about, but all the genes that we have available to us as human beings, a lot of these come from bacteria as well. And so the microbiome is this accumulation of all the bacteria, viruses, and fungi in the body, usually mostly in the gut. But we have the microbiome of the mouth, we have the microbiome of the nasal cavity. So these guys are everywhere. And when these go out of balance, they affect those organ systems. And so when these things go out of balance, there's a lot of things that go. Like we know, for example, in our gut, the immune system is, a big part of that is it's all in our gut. And so this is what creates a lot of inflammation in the body when it's not balanced, but then also can create a lot of just kind of your immune system being much weaker because of that. And also a lot of our vitamins are actually, when you go into your gut, that they're not active, you can't really absorb them and utilize them. So it's only when your microbes go there and break them down, like a lot of these B vitamins and vitamin K, that it really allows them to be absorbed here. So they're key in metabolism, they're key in detoxification as well. So really, this is an astounding statistic too, that 50% of all biotransformation, they call it, or the ability to break down molecules, toxic molecules, comes from the gut. So as much as the liver. Okay, so this is why when we're doing gut work, we're starting detox already, as in we're getting a lot of these toxins and things out. And this is why it's so connected of autism and so many other inflammatory chronic disorders, because when these guys go off, we start collecting a lot of toxins, we start getting more and more nutrient deficiency, our immune system gets all haywire, is attacking things, and we're getting chronic viruses and infections and things that are further creating more inflammation. So we get in this vicious cycle here, and that leads to overall poor quality of life. So this is what we need to do to really kind of get optimized is that we want to avoid some of these disruptors. And some of these disruptors you can't really avoid because a lot of these happened at birth right away in the first few years of life. Those first few years are the most critical pieces here. And if you have any children or grandchildren, it's maybe good to send them some of the data of just, the increased risk for so many inflammatory disorders and allergies and autoimmunity that can happen when we're a C-section baby. A lot of us, I think it's like 40% or some high amounts of the population are actually giving birth through C-section now. They also give an antibiotic at that time, which is not good as well. But the vaginal canal actually gets prepared for birth and actually has tons of these lactobacillus bacteria that's there to colonize and inoculate the baby as it comes through the birth canal. So a C-section, you're not getting that inoculate to jumpstart the microbiome. You're getting a lot of the skin and the staph and things instead coming out the skin. So this can change the balance a little bit just in itself. And then we're not being breastfed, of course, we're not getting the antibodies and all the probiotics and immunoglobulins coming from breast milk. And then lastly, this is probably one of the most important, is that if there's any antibiotic use in general and for long periods of time, or kind of really intense antibiotics, or you had a chronic infection for a long period of time. A lot of people are on acne medication, which they just are put on antibiotics for 6 months at a time, right? These kind of things can be very damaging from your microbiome. But we also have antibiotics just, in the first couple of years, even 1 or 2, just that, something like that right in the early areas here can really cause a lot of problems for that child going forth, because this is when the microbiome is first developing. It's kind of like when if humans, we nuked New York right now, that wouldn't be, it's sad, but it wouldn't be as big of a deal. Human civilization survive. But if we nuked Africa as Homo sapiens were arising, then the Neanderthals would have taken over. Maybe the world would be very, very, very different right now. And so this concept here of any kind of initial early devastation to the microbiome is going to lead to problems here. And what it does is it kills off a lot of the good guys, and it doesn't really, and it kills off some of the bad guys as well. That's why you're taking it a lot of times. But it doesn't kill off the fungus and things as well. So we lose a lot of our good probiotics, beneficial bacteria, but we also, get more and more of this fungus or candida here. And so a lot of people, as they get older, have get more and more of these things. And then on top of it, you combine a high sugar carb diet that a lot of us have as the SAD diet, the standard American diet, right? And so this is, a huge contributor that worsens things even more. And then a lot of people at this time, their immune systems are weaker already because of their foods, because of the antibiotics, and they get in this vicious spiral. It's so sad to see so many patients over and over with the same kind of pattern. Is then what do they do when they're sick? And because they're getting more sick because their microbiome is imbalanced, they get more antibiotics, and that just further drives the cycle here. We know that stress is a big part of things. It's, you can blame everything on stress, but it's just a piece of it, but it definitely is important. Our immune system can be inhibited by even short-term stress very dramatically, actually. So when we have sugar, when we have, a stressful event, that can weaken our immune system very quickly. And that changes actually the microbiome itself. So we can associate different bacterial populations with certain states of mood. So now that they're getting better with these probiotics, they know, okay, if I use this strain, this is going to increase metabolism. This strain is really going to help, with specific food allergies. So, each of these are different organisms that do completely different things. They're like a tiger to a mouse. And so, a lot of times we're having chlorinated water as well. That is just over time. This is why we need to have water. This is one of the easiest, best first things to do is just make sure your water supply is solid and good. And I'm not talking about one of those, poor quality $20 water filters. You need something that's actually going to get out these glyphosates and different, chlorine and fluoride and all the other pharmaceutical drug residues and everything else that's in our water supply these days. And lastly, this is the biggest epidemic of all. It's really the glyphosate, and here in Texas, at least, we live very close to Glyphosate Alley, it's called. And that is just going down into the New Orleans and Louisiana area. And so I have a lot of people that I even see in Louisiana and have a lot of damage because of how much glyphosate is in their environment, in their food supply. And we'll go a little bit more into this in just a second with GMOs and glyphosate, but that's a huge thing. So just eating all organic, that's very important as well. And so glyphosate, we've had 18.9 billion pounds of Roundup or glyphosate in the world to date. And the GMOs is one thing here. Things are genetically modified to be able to not die when you pour this glyphosate on, because they're given new genes to be able to do that. But unfortunately, I don't know who is making this policy. It seems like it makes sense to me, at least, that we're eating this food that has the glyphosate. We don't have this genetic modulation that they gave the plants to be able to break down this toxic substance. So of course it damages our guts beyond repair. And this is a big part of celiac disease and gluten intolerance now. Right? I mean, people, kind of question, oh, well, why is it gluten-free is just a trend? Well, it's a trend because it's a need, because there's so much damage to the gut because of the amount of glyphosate and poor foods and stress and toxicity and all the other things now. And so, there is a lot of research and connection of glyphosate, and it inhibits the production of amino acids themselves and destroy the tight junctions in the process, leading into leaky gut, which again leads into everything else as we'll be talking about. It's connected with autism and cancer and liver damage, Parkinson's, neurological issues, mood disorders. And it's a water-soluble toxin, which is very unique. It just goes everywhere, okay? It's hard to get out, and it just, goes into our water supplies, unfortunately. So that's a big piece of it, so we want to avoid that. And so just looking at autism rates are very much due to these gut imbalances and due to a lot of the toxicity that these kids are born into. These kids, unfortunately, as a pregnant mom, you give 25% of your toxic load to your coming child. And so through breastfeeding and through just pregnancy itself, a lot of this toxicity is transferred down. It's called generational toxicity. This is why, so if there's any mothers that are planning on being pregnant, things, you want to just do some basic gut work and detox before that happens. I mean, really, your kid will be so much easier to deal with. There'll be less kind of problems, even in their behavior, just by having them start off in this lower inflammatory state. But you can see that this is pretty crazy here. Okay, 1975, 1 in 5,000 were autistic, and now it's 110 in 2009. Last time I looked, it was 1 in like 49, so it's doubled again. And then the next 10 years, it's gonna be 1 in 20, and they estimate after that, in 20 years, it's gonna be 1 in 10 kids are autistic. Think about the economic consequences of just that one thing. That will destroy a country. And so this is important stuff. And they say, oh, it's just because we're reporting it more, we're kind of diagnosing it better. No, you don't get 1 in 49 just through diagnosis. Not all 1 in 49 kids are autistic. And so it's obviously toxicity here, and there's other things we can talk about. It's not just one thing here, but this is a big alarm here. Okay, just I see it's 1 in 40 and 18, right? So it's even worse. So we need to just kind of watch out. It's like there's something going on. There's something in our food supply. There's something going on around us. We need to address these things. So there's lots of research and clinical data about celiac and gluten intolerance, how it's connected to glyphosate. And glyphosate has been a lot of our foods, of course. And so luckily, we've done some research, and, just by doing an all organic diet, or at least the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, we'll talk about that, you can reduce your organophosphate levels, rather quickly, which is good. But we need to, really reduce this as much as possible here. And so I guess since I mentioned the dirty dozen, I'm just going to say it right now. The Environmental Working Group comes up with a list of the dirtiest foods, dirtiest 12 foods called the dirty dozen. Strawberries are at the top of that list. So you never want to have berries unless they are organic, especially strawberries. So that's unfortunate, but that's what we got to know. And then also there's the clean 15, like cauliflower, avocados. They don't matter as much. They don't have as many pesticides. So you can consider using that if you want to save money, but all organic is always the best. So ways to increase microbial diversity, okay? Well, this can get complicated. When people have more complicated gut issues, some of this stuff is not valid, and they shouldn't do these things, unfortunately. This microbial diversity is very key long-term. You have lots of different types of these prebiotics to be able to do different things. But a lot of people have a lot of fungus and bacteria and things already. You kind of need a clean slate and kill these guys off. So this is what a more kind of in-depth detox or cleanse to kill off the candida and bacterial overgrowth would entail. But after that, once that stuff has been killed, you can really recolonize a lot of the prebiotic substances and probiotics. And these are some different options here. So lots of different vegetables, thinking about every vegetable is a different planet. They all have different types of microbes that all do different things at different functions, right? So we want to have a little bit of everything to kind of colonize these populations into our gut. We want to increase fibrous foods and these things called resistant starches. If you cook a sweet potato and then you put it in the refrigerator overnight, it turns into a resistant starch, and this can't be broken down by your body for energy. It only can be broken down by your microbiome. So it feeds the microbiome. It's like fertilizer for these guys. And they create something called short chain fatty acids, which are really, really beneficial. But then we have fermented foods. Fermented foods are great, like sauerkraut and different kefirs, etc. But then again, some people can't do these or have reactions when they have a lot of inflammation already, because they do increase histamine, which is important. And then also just, this is an important one for today, just with COVID and a lot of the recommendations right now of using alcohol, multiple times per day and whenever you're out, and kind of being over sanitary. This has been shown definitely to weaken the immune system long-term, and not even so long-term. You're not being exposed to these guys, which are priming and constantly interacting with your immune system so it knows how to work and so it can be strong. So we want to be dirty, especially kids, just kids that have animals, kids that have outside and playing in the dirt. Their microbiomes are so much healthier. Their health and their lives are so much healthier. And so, one of the most important things, especially when we're doing some kind of detox, we're trying to kill off some of the fungus and the bacteria that's in the system, we got to be going to the restroom every day because our liver works really hard to break these things down, excretes them into the small intestine. And then a lot of these are just reabsorbed into the system, especially if we're constipated. And so, a lot of people that are not going to the restroom regularly have a lot of problems just in that one thing. It leads into not only more stagnation, like stagnation of a river. If it's not moving, we have a lot of fungus and bacteria and algae and bugs and stuff. But also we get a lot of toxicity reabsorbed, including a lot of the toxic estrogen. So it can lead into a lot of hormonal imbalances and estrogen dominant symptoms here, really affecting hormonal health as well. And so we want to stay hydrated, of course, and lots of lemons and limes and apple cider vinegar and things like that, managing stress, of course. We want to increase fiber a lot of times. We want to have, our good, healthy bacteria from our vegetables. But a lot of times, again, depending on the microbiome imbalance, these kind of techniques may actually worsen things. So really, how I work with my patients in a very individual way, listening to the symptoms of the body, which we'll talk about more when we talk about food sensitivities. But everyone's different and everyone has different microbiome imbalances. And some people have overgrowths of certain types of bacteria that, really you can't have too much fiber and stuff until we deal with that. And so really, you want to deal with the root overgrowth and damage that's there in the gut of why things are not moving regularly. Okay, but there's also a vagus nerve, a nerve component, which we're going to talk about in just a minute here, that this nerve is very important. It's stimulating the contractions, the peristalsis in the gut, the breakdown of our foods. If that's not working, there's a nervous system thing going on that can lead into a lot of problems as well. So really, especially when we're doing detox, we'll use a supplement to be able to do that. That's totally fine as long as it keeps things going so we can fix the system. And there's a lot of things that you can do that really you could do for the rest of your life and it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but there's certain things that you can do that will cause a lot of problems. So just to differentiate these two real quick is that, when we have things like senna or cascara sangrada or cape aloe, these are things that are a little more potent. And, this is usually not the base. If we can use other things first, then we might use those, but it's nice to have around for people that are having issues. But then there's, long term that burns out your vagus nerve and your nerve is just not able to go without having multiple of these. And it gets more and more. You have to do more and more just to be able to go. It's, some people, I've had patients have 20, 30 of these a day of the Dulcolax and the senna and the Docusate. So pretty crazy. But the ones that would be best are things like that just bring water into the stool very simply, like magnesium citrate. It's a really great way, and also get your magnesium levels nice. It's also good for stress, relaxation, and sleep. But also, usually I recommend one with triphala. Triphala is one of the best prime Ayurvedic herbs. And this is really great for a lot of things like digestive fire, digestive detox, and moving digestive fire and moving the gut regularly. So these are some options here, and I'm going to link you guys to some of this stuff here, for more details. This is, you don't need to, we're not going to stick on the slide too long, don't worry guys, but I just want you to know that the types of them here, and basically the harder they are, the more separate and hard and lumpy, that's the more dehydrated you are. So time from when you eat to when you go to the restroom should be about 22 hours or less, actually. So if it's more, then there's a problem. So the way to find that is you can do drink beet powder or eat some beets. And when you see red, then you know that meal was coming out. So you can make sure you know your transit time. The more loose, the more rapid. So it's not even breaking things down. It's too much inflammation. It doesn't like what you ate. It's just getting it out of the system. And so going into ways to improve our digestive fire. Okay, this is probably one of the most important in many ways because this connects into our microbiomes, connects into our nutrient absorption, connects into a lot of things. So when we have strong acidity in our stomach, we can really break down the foods that we are eating, and we can absorb that nutrition for our own benefit. But when we aren't breaking it down very well, it can be left over and it can feed a lot of the fungus and the bacteria that's there, leading into a lot of kind of weird toxic residues and metabolites that are excreted, a lot of kind of acid that is created, a lot of bloating and gas. All these things can really create a bunch of pressure up here, push a lot of the acid into the stomach, causing heartburn, causing reflux. So, really we want to increase our digestive fire. There's a lot of times, in the more allopathic system, so you have Tums, you have calcium carbonate, you have something to nullify the acid, because the acid is the enemy in that understanding. But really the acid is coming about through a process because of the low acidity actually of your stomach, the lack of digestive fire. And that leads into a lot of these digestive symptoms. So you continue to take Tums, then you're really actually worsening your digestion, feeding these guys more. And in this non-acidic environment, this is what allows the bacteria and fungus to grow. So an acidic stomach inhibits their growth. So that's why these lifestyle and diet approaches are very important for a lot of different factors. And so a lot of these are very simple, just to run through them quickly: avoiding liquids while eating meals, like large amounts of liquids and water. So you don't want to dilute your stomach acid too much. It's better to hydrate on an empty stomach or in between meals. We also, digestion is the strongest when the sun is the highest. It's an all Ayurvedic proverb. And so when we are eating more during the day, that's better, bigger meals then. At nighttime, we want to lower any kind of food in general. Our pancreas shuts down after 7 or 8 p.m. approximately, past dark. And so we don't want to eat major meals at that time. So one of the worst things you can do for your health is eat really late at night, especially if you have gut issues. We really want to chew our foods. That's going to, digestion starts up here. That's definitely, something that our moms maybe used to tell us, but it's true. The more you can help it there, the better. We might have more cooked foods and things, not all raw foods when your digestion is not strong. So in ancient systems of Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, you have lots of very easy to break down foods when you're really sick. To give your digestion a rest, it recognizes that basically, digestion takes a lot of our energy in our body. It's a whole lot. So that's why when we're sick and things, a lot of times we don't eat. Like I've been sick and I just haven't been hungry, and you want to just listen to that, because your body is needing those resources for other places to be able to fight it. And so we don't want to eat too often. For eating every hour, it's kind of like washing the dishes after every single dish. It's going to waste a lot of water. You only have so much water and soap or digestive fire or stomach acid. So we don't want to do that constantly. It's better to, unless you have blood sugar imbalances that are that bad, and sometimes initially we need to do that. Having mindfulness and gratitude and just presence with our foods. It's hard in this chaotic world, but it's so important. And just taking a couple of deep breaths with, before we eat, saying grace, having gratitude. So all these things can be very helpful. Just being present into the smells and the taste of our foods. We can use things like apple cider vinegar, Swedish bitters, lemons, and ginger tea. These are things that kind of help upregulate and get our digestive fire and things up. So that can be great, just at home kind of things to do. But the better quality ones that have a lot of these things in the very kind of much more potent way is a systemic digestive enzyme that will really just break down all these foods. It has the hydrochloric acid as well. You really want to try to get both of these. We can talk a little bit more, but the hydrochloric acid activates these enzymes, allowed to do its job. Okay. And so let's keep on going. Well, I'm going to be talking about some of the nutraceutical hacks, but maybe I just go into how to use these digestive enzymes even right now, just because it is important. So you want to take these the amount you need to not have bloating or gas or undigested food in your stool. And so when things are really breaking down, a lot of times the regularity is much better. Are less bloating, less gas, less loose stools, because we're able to break it down. So for most people, 2 or 3 of these with a troublesome meal, especially, or if it's like you're overeating, if it's Thanksgiving, or if it's late at night, you're out with friends or something. These are times where you can just use these enzymes. These things happen in life, but minimize the damage by just making sure you're really breaking down these food, taking your enzymes, or whatever else that's on this list. And so, this part here, we're going to be talking about just the vagus nerve a little bit. And The vagus nerve is the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's the relax, digest, repair, heal, detox aspect of the system. And so we have the fight or flight mode, which is kind of we're being attacked. We need to move all of our senses into the external world to be able to survive. And so with our just Western kind of consciousness in general, and with all the stress that we're under, it's very much focused on the external. And so we really are drawn out there. We live in this sympathetic dominance more, and we aren't going within, and we aren't, having that balanced, regularity, repair time, rejuvenation time that is so key. And this affects our digestion things as well. And so, anything that we do to move us into this parasympathetic mode is going to be helpful for our system regardless. And so if that is meditation or yoga, some of the basics, the classical things to down regulate cortisol and regulate your immune system or your nervous system, great. But it can be nature and family and friends and laughter and, whatever it is for you that gives you happy, makes you happy and gives you a smile. And, there's also some ways to stimulate the vagus nerve specifically, like an exercise where you can actually strengthen your vagal nerve to do its job better. And so not all patients are going to need to have to do this in any way, but certain ones that where their digestion is really not working, it's not moving, it's a nervous system kind of etiology instead, we might need to get that vagus nerve working better. And so some of these are kind of weird, and you definitely don't need to do this. There's other ways to do this as well. And definitely focusing on the gut and everything else we talked about is probably prime for most people. But, things like stimulating the gag reflex is actually one of the best things that we use in functional neurology. It's called, to get our digestive fire going. That helps the pancreas to be able to make more enzymes, make more hydrochloric acid, gets that peristalsis going. And again, the vagus nerve goes to the heart, it controls heartbeat, goes to all of our organ systems. So this vagus nerve, when it is doing good and is strong, it's able to really optimize your health in a lot of ways. There's also, so a lot of times you'll just do the gag reflex, for example, 3 or 4 times until your eyes water, until you have some kind of production of saliva. This is a sign that we stimulated enough. And you might do that 2 or 3 times or something if you have a vagal nerve issue. But just singing in general, humming, anything of the throat, gargling water, you have to do it pretty vigorously, but you get this very kind of calm, relaxing response actually to your vagus nerve. You can do contrast showers, hot, cold, 90 seconds each. Of course, meditation, yoga, there's things like coffee enemas as well that also strengthen this vagus nerve. So that's one aspect here. One of the last places that we're going to be talking about is gut integrity itself. And, when there is damage, when there's all this inflammation in the system, so we can go through it. So just from the diet, a lot of the inflammatory foods, the processed foods, refined sugars, the gluten and the dairy, these things create a lot of inflammation in the body. So gliadin and gluten, casein and dairy are highly inflammatory molecules for almost everyone actually, but most people it's not that big of a deal. They can deal with it. But a lot of people actually have sensitivities, and even if you don't have celiac, that you would really be able to improve your health by reducing some of these inflammatory foods. But the point was, we want to fix the gut to be strong enough that you can eat some of those cheating foods here and there and it not be that big of a deal. We also have different drugs like the Advil, the NSAIDs, they're called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, the proton pump inhibitors, the steroids, the antibiotics. All these things can really mess up our gut integrity as well. They just put holes in the gut. So a lot of people that have problems that, all these chronic issues, the first initial kind of thing that caused it is like, hey, they're in pain after surgery or something. They're taking Advil every day. So this is a common etiology as well. So then, we want to also recognize the role of infections and the overgrowth and the fungus and the bacteria that accumulate. Bacteria create these endotoxins, and Candida creates over 72 different toxins that really just damage, really irritate the gut in a very profound way. And so we want to get rid of those guys so they stop making those damaging inflammatory molecules and these cytokines, which are these inflammatory molecules in the body. We also, a lot of the toxins, that's a big piece of this as well. So heavy metals, the glyphosate, GMOs, the BT toxin, the all types of the organophosphates, etc., just really damage the gut. So try to avoid that as much as possible as well. And so there's certain things that are really great to be able to heal up the gut. You know, L-glutamine is one of the best things, at about 5 grams per day at the very least is what the research shows. Aloe vera, Sliprium, marshmallow root, licorice. These are all just very soothing, healing herbs for the gut. They calm and soothe and heal it up in no time, as long as you're dealing with the overgrowth and things as well. So, you know, I'll go into more doses more specifically for you guys later. So when we lose barrier integrity, a lot of the food molecules, instead of being processed, so right now they're being processed inside the cell to be able to come down here, and your immune system likes it because it's been processed. But when there is damage to the gut, things are just coming in. They're not coming in through the cells, they're coming in between cells. They're not being processed. They're highly inflammatory. Your body sees it as the enemy. It's like, why is this in the bloodstream? So it starts to make an immune response to it. So 80% of the immune system is all right here. And so when this system is compromised, the microbes and food particles and toxins all start coming in the system. The immune system freaks out, creates a lot of inflammation, and inflammation affects all the other systems of the body. So this can be, you know, first food allergies and intolerances, sensitivities, the things that you didn't have before. You actually make antibodies to those different food molecules. And when you eat those things, they can cause a big immune reaction, causing not even just gut issues, can be loose stools and bloating and gas, but lead to systemic effects like brain fog or rashes and cognitive issues, sleep issues, you know, that we'll go through a more full list, but there's a lot of things that it affects actually. And then if that continues and is not addressed here, we start having, you know, cross reactivity. We start making actual antibodies against our own tissues. So if it's to our skin, that could be more annoying, just like eczema, psoriasis. It can be very serious, like rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis or Hashimoto's, or attacking our thyroid. So when we're starting to have these food sensitivities and things, just use this as a sign that your body is saying, okay, your immune system's not happy. You really need to start addressing, putting some love into the gut, into this core system of the body, and we can start healing things up. And how we do that is that we have this area here that will kill off a lot of the fungus and the bacteria in that first stage, and then we'll recolonize a lot of the healthy guys. We'll replace digestive secretions, so we're really kind of breaking these down. We have a nice acidic area to the digestive tract. And then we also repair the lining of the gut itself, which is probably one of the most important things that a lot of people don't do. You know, probiotics aren't going to solve everything. That's kind of one of the most common things that people know how to use. But really, there's 5 different areas, like I'm saying, that need to be addressed at the same time. It's called the 5R framework of gut restoration. So this is what we use in the Vibrant Life Community Cleanse and in just functional medicine in general. This is how we do our magic of just resetting the system in a very quick period of time. And so this way of looking at things is that if we can address the main source of inflammation, all these other systems start falling back into place by themselves. So it really is the most cost-effective, time-effective, and the only way long-term to heal. It's the biggest bang for the buck. So we always start here if there's gut issues, for the most part. Okay, and so I'm not going to go fully into detail, but just how we go into gluten sensitivity, just like any other food sensitivity, but gliadin very specifically is just a highly inflammatory object, and it actually looks very similar to cholera, which, you know, is a infection that really caused a lot of problems for a lot of maybe past generations. And so it's interesting, we have these immune memories. We can have immune memories even from other generations and things that we're seeing now. But either way, our body really reacts to this gliadin molecule here. And so these food allergy intolerances, signs and symptoms, again, they can be all over the place, like fatigue or mucus, a lot of the allergies that are happening, a lot of the neurological brain issues and brain fog and headaches and migraines that are happening are connected to the foods we're eating or this intestinal permeability. We have joint pain and myalgias throughout the body. We can have rashes and things of the skin. We can have autoimmune syndromes. And then also even infertility can be affected. And so these are just a big array of all the different signs and symptoms that food sensitivities can be part of. So it's good to be more aware of maybe what these things are actually going and what they're causing. And so, how we identify food sensitivities, the gold standard is really have an elimination diet where you cut these things out for a period of time. And hopefully you're doing some gut work at the same time to just, with some supplements to really speed up and maximize the progress here. And then when things are better, you can reintroduce and see and isolate exactly what's causing what at that time. Because a lot of times when we're having a lot of symptoms, we don't know what's causing what. There might be something in our diet causing it, but we have no idea. We are living in this inflammatory storm, and it's we can't really tell what's causing what. But as you take out a lot of these inflammatory foods like gluten and like dairy, for example, the immune system calms down, relax, and you're able to see, okay, when I try to reintroduce this food or when I cheated the other day, this caused these symptoms, and becomes much more kind of apparent, so you can listen to your body there. And so just listening to your body's symptoms in general through this process, and just in general, like, when you have a symptom, try to connect it into your foods, because very much often, a lot of the times it is connected. And so it's like when I have legumes or beans, I always have bloating or gas. Okay, that means you're feeding the fungus or bacteria. Or every time I eat even broccoli or even a healthy food, I get a migraine. Well, hey, don't say what the research is telling you. Listen to your own body in that moment, because it might be good for you long term, but right now your body has created an antibody immune response to it. And so a little cheap, easy way you can do this at home as well. And this is the heart rate technique, where you just kind of test it out for the day. You might wake up and decide to test a food like eggs, for example, to see if you have a sensitivity. After being at a calm and grounded place, you measure your heart rate, and so say it's 60, and then you eat a bunch of that food, just that one food by itself, and 10-20 minutes later or something, you 10 minutes is enough, you can remeasure the heart rate and just see how much it increases. If it increases not very much at all, and it's just under 5, it's nothing to be concerned about. Sometimes we'll have big, huge increases in heart rate, telling us that there's some kind of food sensitivity. So that's just a free, easy way at home for you guys. But the standard of care is using a food sensitivity test to really exactly identify what is causing what in a very specific way. And we can know kind of the intensity of the reaction in an empirical way as well. And so, this is a kind of the summary sheet for one of the main food sensitivities that I use here. And it has, shows you the ones that are totally positive, that are extreme sensitivities and immune reactions. We're looking at the blood, we're looking at the immunoglobulins or antibodies that are created to these foods. And so we have high amounts of those antibodies, that's going to be positive. If you have just a moderate amount, it's going to be more of a moderate sensitivity. And moderate sensitivities, you might be able to have some of these foods here and there, like a little bit once or twice per week, and it not be a big deal. These positive things that you need to avoid completely. So nice to know that, but this changes constantly as well. So you might get it one year and it might be different the next year. So really, you want to address the main root issue. And the main root issue is just fixing the gut itself, healing the intestinal permeability. The gut is nice and strong, the immune system is nice and rebalanced, and it's not attacking all these things it shouldn't be. So this actually, food sensitivity test goes through all the different categories, all the meats, all the vegetables, all the different herbs and spices and things to tell you what you're reacting against. So it's very helpful, especially if you're having a lot and you can't figure out what's going on. So again, just to summarize here, as we close up, 80% of the immune system and 80% of neurotransmitters all come from the gut. And this is why we're focusing on it. This is why this is the most key core work that we can do for our health and for our lives. I truly believe that, especially with all the assaults on our gut in this modern day. So we can see that if we heal our gut, we heal our bodies, because this creates the inflammation that throws off all the other systems. So now I want to actually do some nutraceutical hacks here. Some of you guys have been asking me to go a little bit more in detail instead of just sending it to you guys. And so this is an example of what you guys will get just the following day or two. And it just tells you exactly how to use these things as well. Sometimes, obviously, if you're having lots of fungus and bacterial overgrowth and you have autoimmunity already, probably we need to individualize things, right? We need to get some labs and better isolate what's going on. But this is going to help you guys, and any of you guys are just having just symptoms in your gut that you need some support and help with. I've designed just kind of the most important and easy things to learn how to use, get you moving in the right direction. And so number one, using those digestive enzymes, we talked about using the amount we need not to have bloating or gas. It's kind of an art you start to figure out. We have this peppermint oil GI. It works, it's really, really cheap. It works really well, actually. It's got peppermint, fennel, and ginger in an essential oil form. You can take it if you're nauseous or have any kind of issues there. But you also can break it open and smell it. That also helps with nausea and things very quickly. You can rub it into the abdomen as well if you're having pain or spasms, etc. We also have a Histo-X here. This is great for people with food sensitivities, okay? So it basically quenches the inflammatory histamine release when we have a food sensitivity. So if you know that you just ate something, or you maybe were exposed to gluten by accident, or maybe you know you're about to eat something, you know, sometimes that happens, especially during the holidays, you might take 2 or 3 of that, and that just quenches the inflammatory reaction and prevents these mast cells from releasing the histamine in the first place. It's got a bunch of quercetin and stinging nettle, vitamin C, the things that break down these histamines. We have Colon RX. This is just magnesium and triphala, those 2 things that I said that if you wanted to take it every day of your life because you had constipation, at least it wouldn't be damaging for you. I think if you're having constipation, you should address the root issue, obviously, but you know, this is a very safe one that you can use, which works well. And then we have just a very multi-strain, high potency probiotic here that is refrigerated, and you usually just take 2 per day, 1 or 2. Each one's 25 billion. We have a GI response. This has a bunch of stuff that we talked about here for repairing the gut integrity itself. So it's got the L-glutamine, it's got a lot of the marshmallow, aloe vera, etc., to really just support and heal up the gut. And it tastes really good as well. So you put it in water, you drink it on an empty stomach at least once or twice per day to really soothe and heal things up. So it's one of the kind of key core things there. And then finally, the last one, this is your getting out of jail free card. So this is for acute situations. So ideally, when you you know, are dealing with these food sensitivities or any kind of digestive issues, you want to prevent the problem from the first place. You want to avoid that food. You want to take that digestive enzyme. You might take that Histo-X before you have that food. But sometimes we already have a bunch of bloating and gas, and we're feeling horrible, and we're having even neurological symptoms or something else going on, and we want just some relief. This is what that GI detox does. So it's got a lot of binders, including charcoal, some bentonite clay, zeolites, etc., to bind whatever toxin, whatever bloating, whatever gas, whatever inflammatory food antigen that you just ingested, to be able to carry it out of the system so it stops affecting the body, irritating the gut, and exciting the immune system. So when you take this, it takes other supplements and medications. You don't want to take it at the same time because it also will bind those. But it's a nice, again, have around when you really need it. So that's more of the nutraceutical components there. And again, you guys will have time for questions at the end if there's anything more specific on how to use these things, etc. But again, most of you are patients and have a full script virtual dispensary, but you can just go and click on it and you can see the recommendations there. So the upcoming Vibrant Life community class is going to be on thriving in a toxic world. It's going to be on January 20th. And so it was on the 13th, but I actually have a oral surgery on the 13th, realized, and I probably just wouldn't be, I'd have even worse of a time talking next month than today. And so we are going to put it to the 20th there, and we'll be going through thriving in a toxic world, just really recognizing all the sources of toxicity we're exposed to. Again, 300 toxins as the average American female, over 150 toxins as an average American male. And let's try to reduce that exposure just through lifestyle and diet. But also we'll be talking about really how to kick things into gear and, you know, how this affects all the other systems of the body. So that's on January 20th. You want to go to that. And then if you want to do some of the deeper work here, we've talked a lot about just kind of helping with some of the symptoms here, and that's great. But really, you know, just doing a deeper period of time where you're really focused and committed and you're in community to have this support, and having my guidance along with a team of other professionals can be really helpful, be very motivating to do it as a community. But also, we're trying to not have these really strict diets and food modifications and things for long periods of time. We're trying to reset the system. So my philosophy is, let's just do some deeper work and let's just really fix the gut and let's detox the body. We do 1 month of each. This is part of the Vibrant Life Community Cleanse. There is a 90-minute weekly where we dive into all the different systems of the body that I think are the most important for you guys to understand and know to live the most optimal, healthy, and happy life. And then we have an office hour every week where you're able to just individualize. And so this is kind of like a choose your own adventure is what I'm trying to do, to make this much more accessible and affordable for lots of people, not just the people that have the money for all these labs and supplements, etc. So this is where we individualize for kind of more difficult cases. And even people with autoimmunity were coming that had never seen me before. And we dropped the MSQ, which is this multiple symptom questionnaire, in the third or 25% or more just in this 2-month period. So I am proud of how kind of dynamic that this is and ability to individualize. We will have different weekly sessions, meditations, and food demos in your Vibrant Life Gateway. You'll have access to forever forth. We will do this together as a community a lot of times too, and sharing intentions and doing some other fun things. We will have tons of food plans and documents and educational handouts that help you and support you through this process as well. We'll have a community Facebook group to be able to interact and share. We'll have 10% off any supplements desired if you need it, and discounts off any kind of future consultations. So this is the Vibrant Life Community Cleanse. We're doing our second one in February of 2021. And so I hope you guys will join us. That would be really great. And if anyone is having any issues, please if anyone's having any gastrointestinal issues or health issues in general, your family or friends, please consider, having them join us or sending them a link. We actually are about to announce, we haven't announced it yet. You guys are the first people to find out about it, but we're doing a buy one, get one 50% off. And so that's pretty great to be able to, if you and a partner or you and a friend want to do this, you could buy one for yourself, or you could split the cost, whatever that you want to do, get this beautiful gift certificate to give your friends and family. So now I'm just going to open it up for any questions that you guys have. And so this can be on gut health, hopefully in general, or food sensitivities, clarifying how to use the supplements, about the cleanse process. And you guys can unmute yourselves and we can share from there.